What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin because we have had an interesting development. Going to give you guys the game plan for the rest of this week. Also going to discuss the trades that we called yesterday, Solana of which has already been, pretty profitable based on the idea that we shared yesterday. Before I dive into it though, guys, in about 20 days, we're going to be hosting one more free masterclass. For those of you who have joined the free masterclasses before, you know that this is 2 hours of straight value and no fluff, no BS. So if you guys want to sign up, receive early access, then click the first link in the description box below, book your spot, completely for free, by the way. But otherwise, let's get into the video. So starting off on Bitcoin, yesterday, we had a bearish idea because we had a bearish change in state of delivery with this candle right here. So as of the time, I was like, okay, given how we have relatively equal lows here, as well as a fair gap right here, I was expecting Bitcoin to actually touch, or rather stop out most of the people underneath this level before pumping. Now don't get me wrong, the idea was still that Bitcoin will eventually, go back towards the upside. It's just that within this range here, the fact that we had a strong high and relatively equal lows here led me to believe that, it was going to come all the way down here first before it swept. Now, we did discuss another potential idea, which is what if Bitcoin were to break out? And one of the things that I mentioned was that I would create another video if that were to happen. So this trade was stopped, and that is completely fine because ultimately trading is a probabilities game. I am not trying to justify myself here. We have been right for the most part, like I think on a 70%, 80% clip since February. But fact of the matter remains that I will not be right all the time. What I try to do is make the most use of the information that I have in hand and, make the best decision based on that. So currently Bitcoin has pumped, which is a good thing. And right now I'm going to give you guys the update. So first of all, starting off on the weekly chart, because this is a brand new week, means that we always make it a habit to take a look at the weekly chart first, just to see where we are at in terms of the weekly buys, as well as just to see if there are any interesting developments. And first thing that you will realize is that last week we had a bullish weekly close, which also means that this week we will have a bullish weekly close. And I think that just because you are so close to this liquidity level right here, that you are going to target this more likely than not, which is going to be $88,750. So you can see today, Monday, even right now, like most of the move has happened during the Asia. And for good reason, because that is when Bitcoin actually has its weekly close and a weekly open. Bitcoin actually trades during Saturday and Sunday, unlike all of the traditional assets, which is why Friday tends to be the most volatile day for those traditional assets. For Bitcoin, for the most part, you will see some kind of volatility pick up late Sunday during New York. And as you can see right here, 8 p.m., that is literally the weekly close, weekly open. And that is when the volatility comes back into the markets. Now, prior to that, we had an interesting setup. Right now, we have what is known as a broken base because we have swept the liquidity right here. This is a sell-side liquidity sweep, followed by a break in market structure. This is a really great sign for the bulls, and this is why this will become the signal that we use to start hunting for longs. And immediately you can see that I kind of already have a long idea, playing out right here. Now, I don't think this is going to be the highest probability one, and I'll discuss why. But before we dive into the game plan for today, let's take a look at the daily. Daily is seemingly, giving a really bullish reaction as well. And given the fact that you are so close to these relatively equal highs here, means that more likely than not, even if you were to retrace, it will just be to fill in some kind of fair value gap or some kind of PD array before you continue heading towards the upside, towards this level right here. Now, there is a potential that you might reach for this level, this week, but highly depends on how this week is going to play out. And speaking about how the week is going to play out, let's take a look at the news real quick. So far, most of our news is going to be concentrated in the latter half of this week with Wednesday, Thursday, and no, actually just Wednesday and Thursday. So those are going to be the high volatility days that we want to look for. For example, we may get a day 1, day 2, day 3 heading into Wednesday, and then we might get a reversal during that point. Or we could add day 1, day 2, like basically the first 3 days of the week could just be some kind of a setup, meaning consolidation for what is eventually going to be the real move. It's going to happen on Wednesday. Those are the two probabilities. And at the moment, based on how Monday has been opening up, which is, pretty volatile, I would expect day 1, day 2, day 3, and potentially some kind of reversal, just a small one to, kind of cap off the week. So essentially, this is the weekly open. At the moment, it's, pumping. So potentially we might get the high of the week before Wednesday and then low, and then, maybe it might just close there. The other alternative is that we might just get 5 days straight of pump, which is also likely. But at the moment, we play, I'll just give you the information that is more relevant at the moment. And there's going to be the fact that right now it's time to go into the game plan for today. So taking a look at the daily chart, because we are bullish on the daily buys today, we look for PD arrays that will support that theory so that if price were to return to these PD arrays, we're going to get into it. you can see that so far, this fair value gap has kind of been filled already with this candle right here. And guess what time it happened? Exactly during the London Open. This is why understanding these sessions and kill zones are so important. Right now, we can refine this fair value gap down even more, and we can say that this low right here is technically a weak low, which means that right now we have two potential opportunities for a continuation play. One is going to be right here at this order block, which I've already marked out. This is going to be the exact trade setup that I would recommend. Is just a quick 2R trade. 2.36 actually, which is, more than enough in my book. Fun fact, one of the things that I was talking about with the bootcamp students today is that most people overestimate the amount of trades that they need to make per week or even per day or even per month in order to get to a full-time income. What I want you to understand is that with a 100K account, which is very easy to do, just through like some kind of a prop firm. If I'm not mistaken, Loom might have been lagging, throughout this whole period. So if you guys see a lag in the video quality, I'm sorry about that. Just a little bit of error with Loom at the moment. I am trying to get this video out to you guys pretty quickly so that you guys can actually take advantage of this information. So do forgive the lag in the video quality. So assuming you have a 100K account, on a 2R trade, all you need is either 1% or 2% risk per trade. And that will give you, on average, like if you do one trade at 1% risk with just 2R, that's already 2K, which for many countries outside of the most developed Western nations is already more than a full-time salary, or at least a full-time salary. And if you do 2%, that's going to be a 4K trade. You can see how even if you just get 2 wins and 2 losses per month, you really do not need much to, sustain a full-time income. Sure, this is not going to get you to 10K a month, just like that. You can, but it will more likely entail, 2% risk per trade with 2 Rs. But instead of winning 2 and losing 2, you need to win 3 and lose 1. So some months, if you do this right, if you get just a really high probability month and you're disciplined enough to wait for the high probability setups, then this is absolutely what you can get. So this will easily put you at 10K net, even accounting for the loss. So yeah, this may seem like, oh, there goes the Loom again. So it may seem like, 2 Rs not worth a lot. Currently, we're already up 1 R. This was called to Bootcamp, by the way. Like, yeah, it's easier now more than ever to actually secure 100K worth of funding. If you would like some help doing that on a one-on-one basis to, get funded for 100K over the next 45 to 60 days, then feel free to send an email titled Bootcamp to aoc@theartofcrypto.co. But otherwise, yeah, this is all you need. This is the bread and butter. As long as it's a high probability setup, which, right here, boom, it's kind of halfway to already getting hit. At this rate, I would probably put a stop loss to break even. But yeah, back to the trade. So far, this seems to be the opportunity so far. What you want to look out for, because right now, as of the time that I'm recording this video, this trade is kind of already playing out, is that you want to look for a New York continuation trade, meaning London should hopefully break above this high, which is the target so far. And New York, you want to look for a retracement back into some kind of bullish order block, in which case this is going to be the one that you look at. And then if you retrace into here, target entry here, stop there, and target another 2R, and that's going to be an easy bread and butter New York continuation setup. But otherwise, potentially, you may also come and sweep this low. If you do sweep this low, I don't expect today to give the setup where this is going to play out, because in this case, you will actually break below these bullish order blocks, which would actually put in bearish short flow. So if you do not, like the setup for today is just New York continuation. If you do not get this, then it's going to be the next day where you have an opportunity. But overall, this for today, it's looking pretty bullish. On the week itself, we also got the signals, or rather the conditions that need to be met for bullishness, meaning this is now your bullish order block. This is obviously a change in state of delivery. Right now, you've also broken above to this one. So far it's looking good, where you're starting to, show signs of bullishness now. And perhaps over the upcoming few weeks until, Trump's 90-day pause on the tariffs are over, we just may see Bitcoin go all the way back to $92,000 and potentially even 95, which is another liquidity level that I've marked out there. Could just, continue marking out the liquidity levels, but I don't think this is going to be very relevant to us at the moment. So that is going to be the breakdown on Bitcoin. If you watch until this point in the video so far, by the way, feel free to subscribe, because I will be sending you many more of these analyses as well as live trades that are called from the smart money perspective. If you do appreciate this, different take on technical analysis, where it's not just about RSI and support and resistance and stuff like that, then subscribe, stay tuned, because I will come to you guys with daily uploads pretty much. So Solana, yesterday we marked out this, essentially the breakdown for Solana yesterday, as I called it, was a bullish close, meaning we want to look for some kind of a low of the day to expand higher. And so same exact setup going into the 1 hourly chart, we can see that there is a fair value gap right there, as well as the liquidity level there that is technically right before the fair value gap. And so we anticipated that being swept. After it got swept, boom, today it's been playing out so far. Our target right here is actually 147.5. So you actually still have room to jump into here. And the setup for this is going to be pretty similar. You're going to draw a liquidity level right there. That's going to be your fair value gap. So if you do return into this fair value gap, you're going to look to take a trade here, place your stop a little bit below the fair value gap, and you can either target for 2R right here. This would be a 2R trade. If you take a look right here, more than 2R actually, you could even refine it more, or you can, put the stop a little bit wider, and that would be your easy 2R trade. Now, alternatively, you can also target there for a 4R trade, because I do expect that based on Solana's weekly close, we had a pretty bullish weekly close, that we will reach this level sometime during this week. So Solana has been playing out pretty nicely. Now, just to give you guys an update on TAO. TAO yesterday, the target has been hit, but we did not, get the setup that we were looking for, which is this fair value gap right here. So today, the setup that you want to look for is some kind of a sweep of the low. Same thing for Solana. So that would be the low of the day, and then you want to ride the expansion higher, either targeting the current daily high or this level right here at 360. Now, I was anticipating 360 to get hit this week, but not quite this fast, because today's only the start of the week, and we're already kind of halfway to that target. So overall, TAO is looking pretty bullish. Now, Popcat is the one where I have been also kind of like, not necessarily wrong, but I anticipated these relatively equal lows to get swept before actually targeting the upside. And so far, we're not really getting that. Now, Popcat is a little bit more ambiguous in the sense that currently we're within this order block right here. And if you refine it down even more, that is a daily fair value gap. So hopping down into the 1 hourly chart, see if we can refine this. And it's just, looking like a jumbled, kind of like a jumbled mess. But overall, I think the bias is still pointing towards the upside, especially if Bitcoin continues to show bullishness, then potentially you're going to go here. Although compared to Solana, I would definitely ignore Popcat just because of just grading the trade ideas. This would definitely be, one grade lower just because of the fact that you have relatively equal lows, everywhere. Or as some of you may say, these are stacked lows, and you don't really want to see this when you are, taking a long. Ideally, you want to be trading into strong lows such as this. This was a strong low. So if you were to have an entry here, stop here, target here, 2R, it would work out pretty well. Although one word of caution that I would give you guys is that if you are going to take any of these trades, just be aware that, if Bitcoin dumps, everything kind of dumps, which is why crypto is kind of like just, if you take multiple trades on multiple cryptos, you're not really taking different trades. You're taking the same trade across, different, you're taking the same trade multiple times just with different names or different packaging. Ultimately, they're the same thing, right? They're all crypto, and they kind of move, in tune with Bitcoin. Some of them less so, some of them more so, but for the most part, just manage your risk wisely and just understand that if you take multiple trades, you could just be risking 5, 10, 20% of your account, but then you're taking the same thing. If Bitcoin just starts dumping and you're taking all of these as longs, then yeah, you're going to get screwed. In terms of, short ideas, we have Kaito right here, which is kind of forming a consolidation pattern. I do think that eventually this is going to point towards the downside rather than not. Just taking a look at the daily bias, which I've already shared yesterday. This is a fair value gap. This is an order block. This is an order block. So far, you have a lot of resistance that you need to break through. And if you take a look at Bitcoin, at how long it needed to take before breaking through that resistance, for example, that was the resistance. We spent quite a lot of time just chopping around within this area right here before we eventually now, after, let's see here, that was 10th of March. So a month and a half later, we are finally shown like a clear bullish signal. So don't be surprised if Kaito also takes the same amount of time to pull this off. So bearish until otherwise proven. Yesterday we had a bullish close, so today is not yet the day where we go short. So best to wait another day for this, and that will be the update for Kaito. Again, if you appreciate these live trades, subscribe, turn on the bell notification. Otherwise, join Bootcamp if you would like to get funded within the next 45 days. We help you one-on-one. And if you would like to join the free masterclass, which is going to be 2 hours straight of value and no fluff, then sign up in the first thing in the description box below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.